Hello there. How are you doing? Welcome to our Friday live demo. I'm excited about tonight's demo. It's a little bit different, something I haven't done live before, so you never know quite what's going to happen. But we have done something similar, which I'll talk about in a second. But Susan is here. Carla is here. My best students who are always right on time. Thanks for joining us. Pat is here. Also, excellent student, right on time. Awesome. So I mixed up a whole bunch of different colors, 6 to be exact. Spent quite a bit of time fiddling with them, and I'll show them all to you and what I used. I think it's a very pretty color palette, and I'm excited to see what happens. What we're going to be doing tonight is a flip and drag, which is similar to a floating cup and also similar to a flip cup, but it's a flip cup, but you kind of drag the cup across your canvas over a base coat and kind of release the paint slowly. It's a very fun technique, and you never quite know what's going to happen with the flip and drag, but I quite like it. The painting right behind me over here, the purplish one, is a flip and drag that we did several weeks ago. It was a live demo. It turned out really nicely. And so we're doing something similar. I'm using a little bit different paint mixing formula tonight, and I'll show you what that is. It's my Liquitex pouring medium formula. And I use it a lot with floating cups and open cups, but I thought it would probably work really well with a flip and drag. So we'll give it a shot. And Donna is here. Hey, Donna. And Monique has joined us. And Sharon is here. Hey, Sharon. All right, so we've got lots of people joining us. I'm sure more will join us as we keep going and progress through our demo. And Tammy is here. Hey, Tammy. So let's, Ann McLovin has joined us. The party can begin finally. Awesome. So let me flip over and, well, I'll show you this first. So I'm going to be working on one of my panels. This is a 16 by 20. And it's all prepped like normal. I got tape on the back, my little hooks. It's all ready to go. And I have assembled most of the paints I use to mix my colors. So let's take a look at the colors I'm going to be using. Let me just flip over here. And here we go. So I've got 6 different colors. And the difference between tonight's flip and drag and the one we did earlier, several weeks ago, is I'm going to be doing a split base coat tonight. So I have a big cup right here, and it's an off-white. It's got a lot of white in it and a little bit of silver and some gold. So it's a very warm off-white. And then this other cup of paint is kind of a mixture of a bunch of different colors, but it's a very kind of neutralized purple, which I really like a lot. So these are the 2 base coat colors. So we're going to be doing the split base coat, and then I'm going to be do the flip and drag kind of through the center line where the colors meet. Hopefully we'll get something very cool that happens. And I have down here 4 colors, which I'll layer in the cup primarily. I'll also probably add a little bit of each of the base coat colors to our cup as well. I always like to do that. But here are the 4 colors I kind of mixed up. This one is very simple. This is black and some metallic purple. So it's a very rich, deep black, almost black. And this one here is basically just gold. It's gold with a tiny bit of this brown red mixed in. So it's a very warm gold color. This one right here is basically mostly this warm brown red color, a little bit of gold, but then some quinacridone magenta. I wanted much more of a red violet feel to this painting, so I have some quinacridone magenta, which is a very warm red violet, and I also put in a little bit of the metallic purple as well. So there's a bunch of stuff in this one, but it mostly looks like kind of a reddish copper, this like brown red. That's what's primarily in here. And so that is a very reddish color. Still, it's a very, very reddish purple, I guess you could say. And then this last one took me a lot of fiddling around. It's a really beautiful kind of warm lilac color. And it's metallic purple, and it's got the quinacridone magenta in here, plus a bunch of silver just to lighten it up. And I like to use silver to lighten colors instead of white, because white makes everything opaque and more pastel. Silver, on the other hand, is kind of a grayish, it's a light gray, but it's a metallic. So it can lighten colors, add a bit of sparkle without getting opaque and like pastel looking. So I love to use silver to do that. Also, I put a bunch of gold in here, and that's kind of what gave it this really pretty kind of lilac pastel color. So that one, I messed around with this one the most. I was just fiddling around with it. It started off really purple and like really too like electric purple, and I needed to tone it down. So a bunch of silver and a bunch of gold is what did the trick for this one right here. So those are my colors, and it's a very simple color palette. And when I think about these color palettes and put them together, sometimes I know exactly what I want to do, and they come together very quickly. Other times, it's a little bit of a process. So I started actually designing this color palette with the base coats. I had a bunch of like this white left over, and I had some silver. So I dumped those in there. I dumped a bit of gold in there, and that's how I got this color. And this one also kind of was originated that way, a bunch of different colors. And those look good together because I wanted a light. I knew I wanted a split base coat. So I wanted a very light color, and then I wanted more of a, not a really dark color, but a middle value color, leaning more towards the dark side. So I got these two colors. Then I needed something really dark. And so I came up with my black and purple because I wanted a really dark value. So that's how that came. I wanted something gold, of course, because, we're working with a lot of purples. And then the complement of purple is yellow or gold. So I wanted a gold in there. But then I wanted a very more of a red-violet color. And so that's how I came up with this one. That took me a while to mix up and get just the way I wanted. And it's very similar to this, but it's much more red than this color. But value-wise, they're very close. And then I wanted a little more red in the color palette in general. So I took the quinacridone magenta and then added some of the brown red. And I got this color here. So that's kind of how I came upon this particular color scheme. But it's fun to do. I like to mess around and get the color schemes kind of the way I like them. But I'm always thinking about values, probably first and foremost, ahead of color. So, and we definitely have our values. We got our light and our dark, and then about 3 different or 4 different kind of mid-value colors right there. So that's the color scheme. I'll move all this out of the way. And let's see here. Let me talk about the, let me flip back here quickly. And I'll talk about the mixing formula. And I actually wrote it down for you. So let me pull it up. So here it is. This is my Liquitex pouring medium formula. And it's not just Liquitex, it's also Floetrol heavy. So there's 3 parts Floetrol, 2 parts of the Liquitex pouring medium. That's this one right here with the gray label on it. So you're looking for the gray label, and it says pouring medium on there from Liquitex. 2 parts of that, 3 parts of paint. And the Liquitex is quite thin, so you probably won't need to add as much water, if any, depending on your color. But you can add water if needed to get that particular consistency, which is, a mound when the paint streams off your stick. So a little bit thinner than, this one's a little bit thinner than like our ring pours that we've been doing. Those are quite thick, like the mound on a mound. This is just kind of a regular mound or slight mound. But that is the um, mixing formula. I'll just leave that up there for a little bit. And by the way, if you have any questions, throw them in the comments and I'll get to them as soon as I can. Let's see here. I'm just scrolling back. Let's see. And just to see if there's any questions. And I have something else I want to mention too. And Cheryl's here, and she's a newbie. Hey, welcome, Cheryl. Glad you could make it. Don't be intimidated. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. So glad you could join us. So, all right, so let me scroll on down here. And let's see, Donna is asking, when you do all this mixing of colors, how do you adjust your formula so the paint is still one part? Or do you just eyeball the other things you add for the formula? Well, that's a great question, Donna. And as you know, we have our special mixing guides that we use. So I put the Floetrol in first. I put my pouring medium in first. And I know just how much paint I need to add to bring all that up to my final line, my paint line. So I just squirt a little bit of paint in at a time and kind of mix it up, and to get kind of the color I'm looking for. So it's very thin actually when I begin, and so I'm just squirting little bits in, mixing them up, seeing how close it is, and then I'll squirt a little bit more in, and to adjust things. But then finally, once I'm pretty close, I'll kind of know how much like ratio of each color. So I'll just add a little more of each of the colors in that order. It's not super complicated. I just kind of start squirting it in there, but it usually ends up pretty close. But I've done that many times before. So when you're starting, if you're mixing a bunch of custom colors to start with, what I would recommend is before you even put anything in a cup of paint, just squirt a couple colors on like a paper plate or just your freezer paper. Use that as a palette so you can tape down your freezer paper. Just squirt out a couple dabs of color. Use a little palette knife, and I mean a little one. And you don't have to use a palette knife, but like a little tiny palette knife like this, if you can see that. And just start messing around with the colors and see what happens when you mix them together. And that will tell you exactly what's going to happen when you add them to like the Floetrol and the Liquitex. Those don't really change anything color-wise. The Liquitex is clear, and the Floetrol is, dries clear, those things. So the color, the paint you're working with is really what's going to, that's all of the colors. And the Floetrol, the Liquitex are not going to change that really. So I would recommend just start playing with color just straight from the tube, seeing if you can get the color you want, something close, and then you can kind of reproduce that in your cup. If that makes sense, I hope it does. I think we're going to be working with some custom color mixing, and I'm going to kind of walk you through that process coming up next week. So, or the week after next, this next month. So, but that's probably going to be our studio chat in our membership. I'm going to show you kind of how to do some custom color mixing, and also maybe how to match some colors. I think that would be very valuable because I've been doing a lot of custom color mixes. So I think that would be a very handy thing to show you. So hopefully that all makes sense. If it doesn't, don't worry, because we're going to talk about it a whole lot more in the membership this month. So, all right. Let's see here. I'm just checking for questions. I don't see any at the moment. What I wanted to show you is, I'm going to put this in the chat. There's a link I'm going to put right in the chat. And I created a new page on my my website that will show you, actually it just has links so you can join the live stream at this same time every week. So let me just share that with you really fast, and just so you can see see where it is. But basically, it's www.acrylicpointacademy.com/Friday Live. So if you go to that page, it's going to be updated with the links. So it's like a simple place for you to go, and you could join on YouTube or Facebook or the Facebook group. I just wanted to share that with you really fast. So let me share that with you. And here we go. So here is this thing, and let me take away the banner. So here is the whoa, I got all these. Just 1 second, sorry. Let me remove that and remove this. Okay, so here is the page. It's just, here's my like little banner that I have on all my different videos. It's the Friday night live paint pouring demos. And if you just scroll down here, you can join me live every Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 Eastern time. And these are links right here. So here's the YouTube link, Facebook, my Facebook page, or my Facebook group. So you can just click on any of these and it'll take you right into YouTube, into the live YouTube chat or live stream, my goodness, or Facebook live stream. It's just a very simple way where you can find the Friday Lives every week. So if you just bookmark this website right here, acrylicpointacademy.com/Friday Live, and that'll be updated with the new links every week. So just a super simple way so you could get here and join live. So hopefully that'll be helpful for you. And I'm going to remove this now. All right. And let's see here. Let me add these back. There we go. Cool. Okay, so that's in the chat. You can use that if you want to, and it's just a thing to help get to our lives, make it a little easier for you. All right. So with that said, why don't we get into some painting stuff? And I'm going to flip over here, and we'll start putting down some base coat. Again, we're doing a flip and drag on a split base coat tonight. So, and I'll explain exactly what all that means once we get started. But the painting right here, this purple one right here, that's a flip and drag we did a few weeks ago. I can't remember exactly when. But one nice thing about the flip and drag is you can kind of design in some negative space. And I like to work with negative space a lot. Some people might disagree with that because I'd always dump it off. But I like to design it in the painting rather than have it happen kind of accidentally. That's kind of the hardest way to work with negative space, in my opinion. But when you're doing something like this, like a flip and drag, you can really design some negative space into your painting from the beginning. So that's kind of what we're doing. So let's, I'm going to move my canvas or panel back here. So this is a 16 by 20 that I'm going to be pouring on. And I'm going to show you the cup I have right here. Normally, for a 16 by 20, if I was just going to do like a great big flip cup to cover the whole canvas, I need 13 ounces of paint. So that's quite a bit of paint. If I was going to do a ring pour on a 16 by 20, I normally use 10 ounces for that, a little less, because I like to stretch that paint out and expand those rings in a ring pour. So that's a little bit less paint. I'm going to use even less than that. I'm going to basically take my ring pour amount and divide it in half. So I'm going to use 5 ounces of paint total. And so I've got a little cup here. This is a 7-ounce cup. And I have a little mark right here for 5 ounces. And so I want half the paint. And that's because I want to leave kind of some larger significant areas of negative space. So that's kind of how I design like some negative space into my paintings. So we're going to be using less paint on our double base coat. So let me flip the camera and then we'll start layering our cup, and then I'll add my base coat. Here we go. So I'm going to flip over here. So maybe I'll keep that out of the way for the moment. And I've got my little cup. It's marked 5 ounces is what I'm after. And I put my little tape tab on here. So there's right here is a little hole, and I put a piece of Scotch tape. You can see that right there. And that's, I'll explain exactly what that's for when we get into the flipping and the dragging part. So let me layer this cup. I'm going to put it right here. And maybe I'll flip over so you can kind of, yeah, that's fine. I think it'll be fine right there. So first thing I have to do is kind of decide what color I want to start with. It's not as critical with a flip and drag or a flip cup. I think I'm going to start with this pretty kind of lilac color. So I'm going to just dump a little bit of that in the cup. And maybe I'll go to the gold next. And then I want maybe the dark. So I'm going to go with our black. And I think some of the red next. I think that would be kind of cool. And then I'm going to go with a little bit of the base coat color. I want to have a little bit of that in there. Just a touch. Then I think I'm going to go back to the gold. And then I'm going to put in a little bit of the light color. So I definitely want a little bit of the light color in here too. And I mean, this, you can layer your cups any way you want. I'm just kind of doing this randomly. I'm thinking now, what do I want next? Maybe the lilac color again. And maybe the red next. And maybe some more dark. I definitely want some more dark in there. Some of the gold, and then I'm getting close now to my line. I want a little bit more of the light color. And what else? Maybe I'll finish with just a little bit more of that kind of lilac-y color. I really like this color. It took me a long time to mix it, so I might as well use a bunch of it. So there we go. We've got our layered cup, 5 ounces of paint. It doesn't seem like a whole lot for this, but I think it'll be plenty. Hopefully it's not too much, actually. So I'm going to move that aside for the moment. Kind of move our other paints over here. I'm going to pull over my big panel. And now I have to decide something now. And I know what I'm going to do on this one, but I just want to point something out. So if you want to try this, you can think about it. So I'm going to grab a pencil, and I have to put my base coats down, and they're going to be a tiny bit thicker than I would normally use, just because this paint's going to be flowing into them. So I want a little bit thicker base coat, but I need to know kind of where I want to put them. And I don't want to just throw them together kind of randomly. I want to kind of think about it a little bit. And so now the first thought is, how do I want to divide up my panel? And you could do it two, big ways. You could do it horizontally. So you could like kind of make this top half one color, this bottom half another color, or you could do it vertically. So you could do it, this way, and then make the top half one color, kind of the bottom half another color. I'm not going to do it that way just because it's going to be hard to film it that way. So I'm going to do it horizontally. Either way would look really good. And I was thinking about doing this, like a vertical format, but I think I'm going to do it horizontal. Next, you could do kind of like interesting lines, like some big arcs, things like this. You probably can't even see what I'm doing. You could do like some kind of a diagonal. Susan just mentioned doing a diagonal, and that's great. The only thing to think about with diagonals, they can be very dangerous because you don't want anything. This is a compositional rule, and this is one that you really want to stick to. You don't want any lines shooting off the edges of your canvas, like a line right to the corner of your canvas. That is a big no-no in composition. You never want that. So if you're going to do a diagonal, which is a great idea, you don't want to start either over here maybe, or over here, or down here, or up here. So you could kind of connect things like this. So it's kind of a diagonal, flow that way. But you never want to go corner to corner. It just divides your canvas right in half, and that's just not a good compositional thing to do, because it's very it's too symmetrical, it's too boring, and it's like you have two paintings. You have this top painting and this bottom painting. So whenever you do diagonals, think about that, and try not to have anything shooting off the edges. I always am thinking about that when I'm tilting and stuff. I don't want any like lines shooting right off the edges. Diagonal is a great idea. I think I'm going to just go right in, not in half. That's another big no-no, is if you went right in half like this and had half, the top half, the bottom half. That is another compositional faux pas. You don't want to ever divide your canvas up right in the center, long ways or short ways. You always want to have things off-centered. And you want to think of this, especially like a landscape. Like you don't want your horizon line, if you're thinking about a landscape, ever to be right down the center of your canvas. You either want it to be above, up here, or below, down here. So, and that's kind of what I'm thinking of doing for this painting. I'm going to kind of run mostly a straight line. Maybe I'll alter it a little bit, perhaps, but something kind of like this. And then I'm going to run my cup kind of right along the edge where those two base coats are meeting. So that's the plan anyway, and we'll see what happens. So let's get to work, and I'm going to start spreading some paint. So here we go. And I'm going to put the light color on top and the darker color on bottom. And here we go. Hopefully I'll have enough. So let's get to spreading a base coat. So that was some compositional tips for you. And those kind of are universal to any type of medium, whether you're working in acrylics or oils, or you're doing abstract, or you're doing realistic paintings like landscapes or portraits. Those two rules really apply to pretty much everything. Now, there's always someone who always breaks the rules, and he's, some famous dude, and he always breaks the rules, and it's fine. But you have to really be intentional and know that you're breaking the rule, and you have to do it for a reason, kind of. You don't want to just break a rule to break a rule. There should be some kind of reason behind it. At least I think so. So, and I got way too much of this white on here now. So I'll have to take a little bit off. The story of my life with the base coat. Okay, here we go. Sorry about the excessive base coat scraping and spreading. All right, so here, this is looking pretty good. So again, I want a little more of a base coat on this one, just because we're doing the flip and drag. And it's very similar to the floating flip cup. The paint is going to kind of spread into the base coat. So it plays a part, like kind of a larger part in this particular technique. And on my line, I'm not too concerned about having some beautiful line. It's all going to get covered up with our cup of paint. So that looks okay. It's probably hard to see that because it's very light color. All right, so let's put our darker color down. Here we go. That's going to be too much, I already know. And let's see. I'm going to just wipe this off quick. And here we go. All right, and I'm getting a little blending. That's totally fine also between these two colors. In fact, you could actually blend a little into your base coats, which would be very interesting to give it a little more interest. I like to do that a lot, is kind of blend some color into the base coat. I'm going to keep these ones relatively pure, I guess you could say, as far as the color goes. And again, I put too much on. Okay. Now, after I do the flip and drag, I'm going to be tilting. So this composition will change for sure. It's not going to be just like a little paint down the center here. I'm sure it will change a lot. How? I don't know yet. But I know it's going to do something different. Okay, almost done here. All right, that's pretty good. I'm going to torch quick because I have a ton of air bubbles in some of this base coat paint. And there we go. This is just a quick torch to pop some bubbles. There's a bunch of them. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Now it's time to do our flipping, and then we're going to be doing our dragging. So I got my little flipper device. This is just like a kitchen chopper thing, and it works great for doing flip cups and floating flip cups. Yeah, and you could try doing it the old-fashioned way, just flipping it. But I want to position my cup very precisely on the canvas. So I don't want to just flip it and take a chance of getting a huge splash of paint, which is very likely. So I'm going to put my cup, oops, got a little drip. I'm going to put my cup right about here, and then I'm going to move it back a little and then continue on with the dragging. So here we go. It's on there. Just let that sit for a second. And I'm going to just check. While that's sitting there for just a super quick second, I'm going to see if there's any burning questions. And Susan's got one, which is we're just about to get to it. Do you have a dragging pattern in mind? And yeah, it's going to be a very straight, but I'm going to be moving it up and down ever so slightly. We'll see how it goes. So, but I'm not too concerned with it. I don't want to. I was thinking about having a big, pattern, but the tilting is going to adjust things. So I'm going a little more conservative with the dragging part. So, all right, let's give it a shot. So I'm going to just grab my little tape tab here, pull it off. And what that does, it releases the air out of the cup and makes it so much easier to control the amount of paint coming out of our layered cup here. So I'm going to just move it up a tiny bit and let that paint come out. And you can push it back down to stop at any time. And I'm just going to kind of move it slowly around, kind of right down our line a little bit, altering it somewhat. to create kind of some kind of interesting pattern. There we go. We've got a lot of the paint has come out, pretty much all of it. I'm going to just drag it across a little bit. And we kind of ended on this interesting, we only had just a touch more paint, but I'm going to, don't worry about that. You can just kind of tilt it. And I'm going to just move some paint down there just to cover this area. And this will kind of help create some interest too. Let me pick it up. There we go. So I've covered I've got a line across the whole way. Now at this point, it's not looking fantastic. We're getting a bunch of cells, which is cool, but we could do some other things if we wanted to now. If you wanted to adjust things or alter things, we could do like a lip drag kind of through here, or a couple of them, finger drag. You could use a comb. That might be kind of fun. I'm just throwing out a bunch of options that you could do. You could use a skewer. A comb sounds kind of like a fun idea. I'm going to grab them. So I've got like this set of combs, and it's like a bunch of, I'm going to, hopefully I don't drop them in the paint, but they're fun. Like Mina Villegas uses combs very similar to this. I think this is the set that she actually uses, but this is a fun one. It's like, it's got these big prongs and then these 3 prongs. So maybe we'll try doing a little combing, something like, I'm just going to kind of move it through here. Now this is going to change once we start tilting. So, and I'm just throwing out, some ideas, maybe down here with the other one. Whenever you do something once, you should always kind of do it again somewhere. So maybe over here. And then I got one more for the big one. Let me try going through the paint this way. Maybe I'll drag the dark or the light into the paint. That's kind of cool. So there's a little bit of manipulation. You could do as much or as little of this as you want. I don't do tons of it. Usually, I kind of like dragging that in here though. But I got these cells. I don't want to screw them up right now. I think I'll leave that alone. So that's a little bit of like comb stuff. You could do some more. I kind of like the way it's looking. The only thing I might try is like maybe a little finger drag through here. If I do one, I probably have to do 2. But right here, maybe kind of like a interesting line. And then maybe I'll do one down here and through the dark somewhere. I love this black, but maybe something like this. So, okay. So we've done a little bit of manipulation. You could continue on with that if you wanted to. I'm going to start doing some tilting, and we'll see what changes here. So let's get going. And all of these things that I just did are going to change quite a bit. So I'm going to turn this a little bit. And when I tilt like a flip and drag like this, I kind of tilt it rather severely so that I get a lot of movement and interesting things kind of start happening. So I'm just, when you tilt really severely, the paint will kind of move in more like a wave or like big drops instead of just slowly meandering over the canvas. So I like to kind of move it severely. I love what happened right here with our finger drag. Maybe I'll try one more of those through some of this. Okay, and then another little more tilting perhaps. So we're changing things up quite a bit. I've got some interesting kind of cool cells happening, which I like. What do I want to do next though? Maybe over here just a touch. But these can go very quickly depending on how much you tilt. So I want to change this a little bit here. So that's kind of a crazy looking composition. I like a lot of it. And remember, we only used a small 5 ounces amount of paint in our layered cup. I could have used probably less. And, you know, again, we have tilted over a lot of negative space. We have a lot up here, which I quite like. The only thing that's bothering me is this right here. I don't love this shape. I think I might try to move that a little bit. And this one's kind of bothering me too. Maybe that looks better. So let's see, anything else I want to do? So I quite like it. See, I'm just checking out and seeing if there's anything else I want to do. And yeah, that's a cool one. It's kind of a crazy one. We're getting a lot of cells though right here. And like these cells, we've got some cool cells in here, some lacing. That's typical of the Liquitex Floetrol formula. You get these kind of beautiful cells that emerge. So if you love cells, that's a great recipe to try. I'll show it again in a minute. And you can check it out, or you could write it down and try it if you want to. It's a very simple formula. But I think that's pretty cool. You can see what happened with our combing like right here, the comb lines, they alter a lot, but they look so much better after tilting. Like right here, I love these where we dragged the base coat into the purple. I think that's very cool. Some of the finger drags, this is the remains of one, which I like it. That's a very delicate little line, like a little wispy line. This is one here. So there's all kinds of things you can do to kind of manipulate the paint before you tilt, or kind of in the middle of your tilting, doing some manipulation. So, but I think I might be done with this one. It's kind of a fun, cool painting. And we've got some, not tons of darks, but we do have like these little hints, accents of the deep dark here, like little indications of the dark. To me, that's so important to have the darks and the lights and then the mid values all kind of working together. So I quite like that one. It's a wild, crazy one. You never know what's going to happen with flip cups, any type of flip cup. It's kind of a, you know, you're always going to be surprised. So unless you go into it with no expectations, which is how I tend to go into like most of my techniques, because you never quite know. So let me flip back here and see if there are any other questions. Let me see. So I'm going to come back over here, and then I'll put up the recipe one more time, or the formula right here. So 3 parts Floetrol, 2 parts Liquitex, pouring medium, 3 parts paint, and then water if you need it. Sometimes you don't. It depends on the paint. About half and half, I'd say. So half the time I need a little water, half the time I don't, but it all depends. So and Linda is asking, can you touch up negative space with your prime color after your painting dries with the paintbrush? Normally you could, as long as nothing has blended with that color and you have some left over. Pretty much every other color that you layer in a cup is changed and altered from the original color it was. But the base coat is a little bit different story. And let me just flip back here. I'll show you what I mean by that. So like any of this up here, like the pure white or the pure purple, oops, you can't see that. Sorry. Like you can't see that either. Oh my gosh. The purple, like down here, the very pure color, like on the edges, like these edges, I have to go back and touch them up, but I'll do that when we're done with our video while the paint is still wet. But if you had some kind of a blemish in the pure base coat color, yes, you can touch that up afterwards. Anything in here, anything in where we have our layered cup, it's very, very difficult because the color has changed dramatically from what we have mixed in our like cups like this. So, but that's a great question. So let me go back here. Good question. Let's see. Oops, let me. Karen is asking, if you didn't want to use shades of purple, what could I substitute? Pretty much anything you wanted to. I just went with the purples, but I mean, any color you want. And there's a way to get darks and lights and mid values with pretty much any kind of color. Greens would be a wonderful color palette to work with. Of course, blues would be great. There's so many to name. I can't really name them, but even if you don't like the red purple and you like more of a blue violets, those work really well too. Pretty much the sky's the limit as far as color palettes go. Anything you want. And I know you're working on an interesting color scheme, like an Aboriginal flag color scheme. Karen is in my membership, and that's a black and a red and then like a yellow or a gold. That would be very interesting if you tried like the red on top, a black on the bottom. You could mix all the colors together in a layered cup and kind of float them across and like make it very heavily gold in the layered cup. And then you'd have your kind of 3-color combo. That might be a very cool idea to try. But yeah, sky's the limit really with color palettes. Anything you want, really. So. And Donna is asking, oh, I see what you're talking about. In the bottom right-hand corner, should you get rid of that small white part? And let me show you what that is. And this is a compositional choice again. Let me flip back here. So let me remove your question quick, Donna. But right here, I think that Donna is talking about this little white speck. I didn't even notice it until Donna mentioned it. But yeah, you could probably get rid of that. That's kind of distracting. And remember when I was talking about diagonals, well, that's very close. It's not exactly on there, but that's very close to going right out the corner, this line. So I would definitely probably change that. In fact, I'm going to do it right now. And see what happens. So I have to get the paint moving again. And sometimes that can be challenging if it's been sitting a little bit, but it's moving. So I'm just kind of slowly moving that off. And of course, that's going to change some things. But and then the other thing you could do is take a little bit of that color, and to help it along, I'm just going to let a little of that purple kind of fall right off of the edge. So that's a great catch, Donna. And since I made such a big deal of don't have anything going out of your corners, I think it's probably a wise idea to have changed that. So, but there we go. So we've altered things. We lost a couple little things, and that's just the way it goes. But no one's going to know but you. Well, you'll all know because you watched me do this whole thing. But other than that, no one will know, where you ended up. What the final painting, people have no idea the stages it went through, except you, unless you film it like I did. But great call, Donna. So let me flip back here. Okay. So good catch. Good catch. Let's see. I'm going to go check and see if I missed any questions. So forgive me a second. And Warren has an idea. He wants to see it flipped around. So I can oblige you. So here we go. So here is the painting 180. So we have the purple at the top and the light at the bottom. And it's always a good idea to kind of look at your paintings in all the different angles to see which orientation you like best. So I think that's kind of an interesting one. Let's try it in like a vertical format. It's probably not all in there, but pretty close. That would be interesting, like a vertical format. Go the other way. That'd be kind of interesting too. I don't know. I kind of like it horizontally one way or the other. We'll leave it this way. for now. So let's see here. And Pat is asking about cells. And the only thing I have in there for cells is Floetrol and the Liquitex pouring medium. And but you probably heard that when I mentioned it. But yeah, that's it. That's all you need is Floetrol, Liquitex. And I hardly ever use Floetrol, or I'm sorry, I hardly ever use any kind of silicone oil or anything like that with Floetrol. I just don't like the way the cells look. I like them much better without any kind of silicone when it's with Floetrol. And so let's see here. I'm just checking to see if there's any other questions. And Lily, Lily is impressed by how much color I used in this one. Yeah, it's a pretty colorful painting. I've been doing a lot of very neutralized paintings lately, but I like color too. So this is kind of a fun colorful one. All right. And so I don't see any other, let me check the bottom here. If there's any other questions. So I'll bring it back. And Facebook user is asking, do you use Liquitex gloss or iridescent medium? And I'll bring up the formula again. This is what I used in this particular painting. And all my paints are mixed with 3 parts Floetrol, 2 parts Liquitex pouring medium, and 3 parts paint. There's a lot of metallic colors mixed in there. So, which are, metallics and iridescents are very similar. They're kind of interchangeable. So but there's a lot of gold, and there's a lot of metallic purple, and there's a lot of like a copper, like a reddish copper in my paints. So yeah, there's some Liquitex in there. And the Liquitex and the Floetrol together create a lot of these interesting cells. So I love them as far as making cells. The one behind me actually is this one, the blue one, was using the same formula. So that's the Floetrol Liquitex formula, and I got tons of cells in that painting. And that was a open cup pour. So, all right. Cool. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions at the moment. If you have any last minute burning questions, now is the time to ask. But I hope you found this helpful, exciting, or interesting at least. It's a very fun, versatile technique. You can do so many different things with like a flip and drag, and all of the like the combs and finger drags, cup drags, or that's called wrecking. Some people call it wrecking your pour. But there's so many different things you can do to it. Endless amounts of color combinations, base coat combinations. Just a really fun, versatile technique to do. You could also, I was thinking of doing this, having multiple flip and drag cups with the double base coat. But I thought, that's a little too much let's do one to start with. So, but you can really let your imagination go crazy in coming up with ideas for like this type of a painting, flip and drag. And then you can design in, your negative space. And it's just really, really fun to do. And all right, so I'm not seeing any other questions, so I think we'll wrap it up there. And thanks so much for joining me. And I hope you found it interesting. And oh, by the way, Donna, in with the last minute question. Does it matter how far down you put the hole in the cup? Well, I'll show you where I put my hole and in the cup, and I think it probably makes a difference. Let me grab a cup here. Let me grab a cup. Do I have a cup? Is this a cup? Here's a cup way in the back. So it's a big one. So I usually put my holes like right here because when you flip the cup over, all the paint sinks down kind of this way. And so the air is on top of the cup then. So when you pull that off, the air can escape quickly out of when it's in the top of the cup. You could put it like right here if you wanted to. It's a little harder to poke a hole in the very bottom of the cup. So about a quarter of the way down is where I usually put the hole, and then cover it with tape. And it doesn't have to be a big hole. Just a smallish hole works just great. So that's a good question though, Donna. Great question. All right. And Diane has a question, a last minute question, different type of question. With glue, does your paint seem to get thicker as it sits? The paints will get thicker as they sit, the longer they sit, whether it's with glue or Floetrol. But glue in particular, yes, they can thicken up quite a bit, like if they've been sitting for quite a while. Always cover your paints if you're going to be leaving them for any longer than, I'd say, half an hour. If you're going to be away from them for more than half an hour, cover them up with something like a lid or like cling wrap, something like that, and cover them up. But if you have them stored and you come back to your paints and they're mixed with glue or Floetrol and they seem really thick, you can add a little bit more water to get them thinned down again to the proper consistency. And it depends on your climate also. If it's like hot and dry where you live, the water will evaporate from your paints much quicker. And so I always cover my paints very quickly. I'm in San Diego, so it gets it's pretty dry here. But I gotten a lot of crazy flashing on my screen. But hopefully that answers your question. But if they do thicken up, you can add a little more water to get them thin again. So good question, Diane. All right. Well, thanks everyone. Everyone's taken off. Have a great weekend, everyone. Try some painting. If you try out a flip and drag, and let me know what you think. You could post pictures of it in the group if you wanted to, Acrylic Pouring Club on Facebook. That would be awesome. So, all right. So I think, oh, Diane, with another last minute, do you put a hole in all flips? No. The reason I put a hole in, like when I poke a hole in my cup, is for specific techniques. This particular technique, the flip and drag, where you're slowly letting the paint out, I put the hole in for that, and also for a floating flip cup, because it's a similar type of process where the paint is flowing into the base coat. But for a regular old flip cup, where you're just flipping it and pulling it off, I don't put a hole in for those at all. It's not necessary. So, but that's a great question, Diane. So, all right. And thanks so much, everyone. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you next Friday. I'll talk to you, members, I'll talk to you coming up next week. We're going to have a fun week of floating cups, or fun month, I should say, of floating cups. So this is kind of a little teaser for you. All right. So, and then Barbara is asking, she's answering a question for Lily. Nice to see you, Barbara. Thanks for joining me. Let me see if I can get Lily's question. But I can't see it. Maybe Lily has left. Oh, here it is. Lily is asking, someone asked about gloss and iridescent medium. Brad did not answer. Oh, sorry, I missed something. I might have answered that. That was if I used Liquitex pouring medium. I don't use Liquitex gloss medium all that much. Like Liquitex gloss medium, I usually just use the pouring medium. But hopefully they got that answer. So thanks for following up with that one, Lily. Appreciate it. So finally, I will bid you adieu. Have a great weekend. Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the painting. I'll talk to you very soon. Bye-bye.